Hello, everyone. Welcome to the third day of Peralta Online Equity Conference. And this is an afternoon session on a wonderful day in California. So if you're here, thank you for being here. If you're somewhere else, thanks again for joining. And feel free to use the chat box to introduce yourself and tell us where you're coming from. That will be great to get to know you as we get started. So this is a poster session. So we're gonna listen to Dr. Butler and Karen Oye for their presentation. Actually, their presentations were already recorded and shared with the participants. So we're not gonna share the whole presentation again, but what we will do is basically, we will ask our presenters to just go over and summarize their presentation in 2-3 minutes, and then we're going to open up the floor for questions. So saying that, just a couple of housekeeping items. Please ensure that your microphone is muted when you're not speaking to minimize background noise. And please pose your questions using the chat function. But since this is a small group, I strongly encourage you to unmute yourself and join the discussion and direct your questions to our presenters. And also, we are using automated Zoom captions. So when you look at the bottom of the Zoom window, you will see a closed caption button and a live transcript text underneath it. So select to turn them on and off as you prefer. So saying that, I would like to turn it over to our presenters, Marcedes, Butler, and Karen Oye. So Karen, do you want to get started?
Hi, thank you for inviting me. So I was very fortunate to have a partner. Josh Rose is a librarian at the College of Alameda. And the title of our video presentation is Building Relationships, a Collaborative Research Discussion. So first, in the beginning of spring, I was lucky to have my biological anthropology course reviewed and aligned to the Peralta equity rubric. And Kevin and Didham were wonderful in helping me. And then another wonderful coincidence is that Josh Rose emailed me and had some ideas for a research discussion in the course. And at first I was a little hesitant, feeling bad that maybe students wouldn't, want to ask questions to him in a discussion forum. But over time, I'm like, you know what, you are an embedded librarian. Let's add you to the course. And we redesigned a discussion based on research and Indigenous scholars. And so together we collaborated in a Google document to brainstorm the different individuals that we wanted to showcase within my field, which is paleoanthropology, paleoecology. And so we had individuals that we chose from Kenya, from China, from Ethiopia, and also from Egypt. And students worked to provide an APA reference, to compare and contrast their different scholars, and also to find an article and explain the article in the discussion. And it worked really, really well. So Josh was available to provide his initial discussion post to start the discussion. I replied to him. We talked about white privilege in paleoanthropology, and many of the famous fossil finds are mentioned, and quotes are from white scholars such as Tim White, Donald Johanson, who found Lucy. And so we just brought that up in our discussion, and students engaged in a very collaborative discussion about the field. And it was a wonderful experience to have that opportunity to include an embedded librarian. And so one of the things that, with the Peralta equity rubric is that the value of collaboration to ensure representation, diversity, and learning were intertwined with college support from the librarian at the College of Alameda. And I found it to be a very successful experience. We have already talked about doing it again in fall when I teach Introduction to Archaeology and Prehistory. So thank you so much for the opportunity.
Thank you, Karen. Thanks for sharing. And maybe we should continue with Marcedes Butler, and then after that, we can open it up for questions and answers. Dr. Butler, do you want to take over?
Yes, thank you. First and foremost, thanks again for the opportunity. to present my poster session on breaking down barriers to graduation, the role of academic concierge advising and supporting online learners. In sum, I discuss and share my experiences with a workforce degree completion program that NSHE, the Nevada State of Higher Education, has with NGM Resorts International here in the state of Nevada. There are about 7 institutions that are participating both at the university level and the community college level. It's the first ever partnership between a Fortune 500 company that pays the university directly for the education of their employees. And it is a successful program. Throughout the recording, I share a little bit about my role, the concierge, which is really an advising administrator role where I partner across campus to help online students with, those burdens and delays to the administrative process of persisting to graduation. I share some stats on why intentional programs like the COP matter, not only to the university, but to the participants, and a model where we all can win. MGM is winning, NSHE, the particular campus I work for, UNLV, and the students. There are 10 undergrad degrees that the students can select from. We have 4 graduate degrees, and I spend a vast majority of the PowerPoint presentation online, really discussing the lessons learned, and we can get a little bit more in depth in that in the next part of this discussion. But again, it's being intentional, having a framework where it's an intrusive advising where you get to know the students, flexibility in the classes that are being offered, that theory to practice where we're documenting and encouraging the students to apply what they're learning in their life and in the workplace. So again, I am excited to talk about student success, online student success. So thank you again.
Thank you both. Thank you so much for sharing briefly about your projects, what you have been doing for equity with us. So I would like to remove actually the spotlight from you, Dr. Butler. I can't do it, I guess. Did I already do that? Okay, perfect. So I would like to open it up for questions and answers from our participants now. You can use the chat box or unmute yourself if you have any questions at this point. And Kevin, thank you so much for sharing the conference, the presentations in the chat. That is also helpful to just go over for people who have not watched it yet.
I think the interesting thing about both of your posters, and this happened a little bit in the last poster Q&A, was the synchronicity. They all dealt with universal design for learning and accessibility, whereas both of you are talking about roles that go beyond the instructor. And so here we have an embedded librarian and a college opportunity learning concierge. And so I'm interested to hear both your perspectives on how you kind of intertwine the academic outcomes with those support structures from the staff members that really help the students meet their goals, either at the course level or at the certificate and degree level. So I'll leave it to you. Who wants to fight to be first to answer the question?
And I'll jump in since you started first. Well, I think I love the way you put that, like the role beyond the instructor. So I think in my role, again, this admin, faculty, advisor, concierge, I pride myself and I am very knowledgeable about how the university works. And in particular, I spend a lot of time getting to know my colleagues and who does what and how. And I use that information to set the students on the path to degree completion. outside the classroom, that is being the point of contact for the students, from being a prospective students through the application process all the way into degree completion. I'm assisting and plugging them to points of contact in financial aid. We have a point of contact in admission. I have an overall understanding of academic advising and what is needed, but I do partner directly with the advising center because they're the overseers, right? Really, of that degree sheet and also that connection to the faculty. A lot of my work is proactive. It's proactive because I can figure out what the majority of students are dealing with. I am looking for solutions to actually prevent that. So the conversations with financial aid are happening before the semester starts. They know the deadlines. I know who needs extra paperwork. And so while financial aid can focus on other populations of students, I can then work one-on-one or in small groups with the COP participants. So that way financial burdens don't prevent them from degree completion, especially when MGM is paying the bill. So I think more that administrative piece is proactive. In the classroom, I mean, it's still the same way where faculty really have the autonomy over that. I spend a lot of time with the online students, not necessarily on if they can do the work. There's something special about this population. They can handle the coursework. I spend time with them on how to communicate with the instructor, how to send a proper email, time management of planning out your online coursework. They work full time. A lot of them are parents, they have families, a lot going on, and they're in school part-time. They're taking 3 online classes at a time. And really that time management, that self-efficacy, yes, you can do it. Doesn't matter if it's been 20 years, 10 years, 15 years, you can persist through. And so I think bringing all of that together kind of in an intrusive advising way helps them feel confident that there's someone on campus that cares for them and has their best interests at heart. And so I almost see my role a little bit as an advocate.
Thank you, Dr. Butler. I just want to add my experience as a program coordinator. I did work in the transfer center at Foothill College, and one of my roles was to call students. And we researched all of the students who were very close to transfer, getting their ADT, AAT. And so the calling was intrusive counseling in order to make them that counseling appointment to get their ed plan done and petition to graduate. And I can't tell you how many students thanked me for calling them and just that reminder. And so going into the classroom, one of the things I'm very lucky to have the experience working with the CBC rubric, with course design. I think I'm one of those habitual people that love changing my course and making improvements all the time. And it just never feels like I just want to do the same thing every single time. And it also makes grading more fun when you can implement new ideas, just changing it up. And so some of the intrusive ways to reach students is the emailing, the reminders that assignments are due, asking if there's any issues that they may have. And so in our discussion forum, not only is the post and the replies available, but also setting up a forum just for the librarian to ask any problems that students may have with using the College of Alameda database, using the APA reference. You know, I wasn't sure if students would be confused, but Josh did create a video on how to navigate through the system and use the database. We also provided examples of the reference guides. So we went above and beyond to provide the examples and samples that students needed, just so that they weren't confused in ways we could possibly help them. And so, yeah, I just having that background and that interest in universal course design and ways to add more opportunities to include individual cultures and backgrounds and bringing in that diversity in any way we can in an assignment or a discussion.
Thank you, Karen. Thank you, Dr. Butler. It's wonderful to hear your perspectives on that. And I have a couple of questions too, but I see James's hand is up, so I would like to. James, do you want to prefer to ask your question, unmute yourself, or use the chat box?
Thank you, if you don't mind. And I hope this is relevant. I do appreciate everyone sharing their experience and their expertise. Indeed, thank you very much. My question has to do with, in your own experience, and it's okay if you don't know the answer, what do you feel really helps student veterans succeed, either at the 2-year or the 4 years college? And if you have any experience supporting this particular student demographic, what do you feel really are the best strategies for instructors in the classroom and or the support services offered by the particular institutions? I was, before my present position, when I was still teaching, I was in kind of a volunteer role, working a lot with a lot of student veterans at my campus. So I'm not a veteran, I'm a civilian, and I'm always trying to learn new ways, in which to actually serve this group that has, well, very often some unique challenges. I don't want to generalize, but very often some things that are unique to their experience, or that that might hinder their ability to thrive, in an academic setting. So please, if this is relevant to the conversation, if anyone has anything to share on this subject, I'm all Socratically ears.
Well, my experience is mental health issues, depression, anxiety. And so the things that students have reached out to me to mention help support me through private emailing in ways that I can understand the things that in their life. And so giving more time, not making the due date strict, and just understanding that, there's a situation where they just can't get the work done. And the other suggestion that I have for Canvas is that you can import a mental health and wellness module with like 28 different pages for them to go through and understand test anxiety, housing, mental health issues, anxiety. There's all sorts of different pages and ways that students can read, research, watch videos, and then I provide it as extra credit. So my extra credit does not have to be related to the course topic. Students take advantage of it like crazy. And if they're not having a mental health problem at that time, their friends may. And so they talk about how they can help friends and family. And then through the knowledge that they've gained through the module and the activities, then they just share how that's going to help. So yeah, that's just what I've wanted to mention, is just being understanding, maybe doing a self-assessment survey where students confidentially let you know any issues that are going to be facing them coming up, so that you're just really aware, and then reaching out and letting them know that you understand and you're there for them if anything should happen.
Thank you so much, Karen. Just if I can share my own experience, when I would ask my students, how can I best serve you, facilitate for you? And they would say to me, and I know I'm generalizing here, but they would often say, advocate for us, because we're not used to advocating for ourselves, because in the environments we came from, we were expected to make do, with this is the task in front of us, get it done. So we have to, I don't know, I'm generalizing, I don't want to speak for everyone, but I found that to be a very moving and common theme. That's like, oh, it's okay to ask for help. you don't have to just keep going forward. You can ask for help. So thank you. And thank you, Kevin. Thank you very much. I appreciate that.
If I can add one thing too, Aaron brought up a really good point, that I know that there are instructors who are, especially in online courses, which military and veterans often engage in because of where they are in the world. There are also those who might be in the reserves and get called up at inopportune times. And so faculty who are very quick to drop a student for no show at the beginning of the semester, where they're supposed to complete an academic requirement to show that they're intending to take the course, even when they send an email saying, I'm in the reserves, National Guard, or what have you, and I'm not going to be able to be there for the first 7 days of the class, but I'm interested in taking it and I'll make up the work. Let me know how to do this. Instructors often feel, let's just say, torn between the academic policies that require them, even if they get that note, if there's nothing showing up in the learning management system that qualifies as that work, they're required to do that drop. And then the student has to reapply, and then they can't get in sometimes because they have no evidence of academic work. And then the flip side of it is they want to treat this person as a human and acknowledge that they're in a different situation and honor the sacrifices they're making for our country and not kick them out. So, James, you bring up a really good conversation point, which is that we have demographics. And I think one of our groups earlier today, it was the very first speaker from University of Maryland Global Campus, said that they have a high number of military and veterans in their student group doing online courses with virtual labs. So I'll touch base with them to see if they have any strategies as well.
And
Thank you.
I also would like to add just a quick thing about not in a community college context, but in a university context, four-year institution context. In another university I teach at, I also have many students who are veterans who are coming from military backgrounds. One thing I learned throughout the years is just being flexible. Flexibility is super, super important for them. And I always get that feedback in my end of year evaluations. And first, I didn't realize it was a big thing for them, but it is. And I even learned that some of the students were about to give up, but they were not giving up because of the extra time they got for assignments, because of the flexibility the instructor provided. So that seeing all these comments in my end of evaluation surveys, just they never told me, they just appreciated, of course, in 3 emails, but I didn't know it meant so much to them. So I think flexibility is another key point with the student population. Dr. Butler, were you going to say something?
Yes, I'm loving all the feedback. I want to speak from outside the classroom and supporting veteran students. I think that you guys said so much. I wrote so many notes on what has been said. I think with working with this population, and again, I go back with any student, is really being intentional. I think from a faculty standpoint, that online course, that intro post, and you can survey the students. I know I started to, inquire about some of these indicators and how they self-identify themselves, international, veteran. So that way, behind the scenes, I know how to put maybe the conversation in context and have an understanding of what students are veterans. I think too, is once you figure out you have one or more, being intentional to go sit with the department. You don't have to figure it out. Okay, I have a veteran student. What are some things I should be concerned about? What can I do? Okay, if X, Y, and Z come up, just ping us back, right? Sometimes you might not have that time. You can ping the Veteran Center. You can also ping advising, right? I need someone to reach out to the students. I think that's where the advocating piece comes from. The feeling cared about piece is that there is some intentional follow-up, right? There is some intentional follow-up, a nice warm handoff. I think also some of the things that I've learned over time is each veteran, like every student, is different. And because of the unique experiences with the military, I have learned that having those individual conversations, what I would do in the past is assume that everyone was happy about being in the service. I would lead with, thank you, I appreciate it. And I had one student say, don't tell me that. You don't know about my experience. You shouldn't do that. And I was like, okay, thank you. And we talked about it. And so now I don't make those type of assumptions. I let them tell me their story, how they feel about it, and then use that as context clues to continue on. I think, again, it's the engagement with the student. Kevin, you brought up something that's so key, is that with faculty, a lot of times they don't know the policy and procedure. So even if you withdraw the student registration, we're gonna put them back in, right? Because by law, we have to. And then that's where it can get messy. You need the chair, the dean, or whoever to make this happen, when we really should keep it in-house with the instructors, maybe during that faculty training. Maybe that's an area to discuss of these different student population. International students is one, where there are policy and procedures and laws that have to be abided by regardless. And so, and how to incorporate that in the classroom so that the instructor is also empowered to be able to know how to help the students. And last, I think I spend time, even with the COP, I've counseled students out of the program, because when we walked over and we talked with the vet's office, it wasn't in the student's best interest financially. There were other stipulations on full-time and part-time. And so me bringing everyone together was an example of them feeling supported. Like I said, that advocating for them, putting them in the right position or in front of the right people to get the answers that they need to, I like to say, to make an informed decision. And again, spend a lot of time on the why it's important. Why is it important that you're in class? What are the benefits to you, and keeping them motivated throughout that process. But that's one population that's near and dear to my heart.
Oh, thank you so much. I really appreciate all of your sharing all of your experiences and feedback on this. So thank you. Truly appreciate it.
Thank you, James. That was a wonderful question. And I have a question too. I see Josh Rose is here too. Hi, Josh, welcome. Great timing, because my question probably requires input from both of you, Karen and Josh. I would like to share that I used to collaborate with a librarian at COA, and it was a great experience. But I had some concerns about like have to balance not the workload, but I didn't want to take much time from my librarian colleague, but at the same time, I know that she was super helpful, and I wanted to ask my students to make an appointment with her, but at the same time, I didn't want to overwhelm her. So that kind of balance, how did you do that? Did you have an agreement or something? I'm just kidding, but how did you do that?
I think initially when Josh reached out and sent me an email with all of these research ideas, I was like blown away, because it took a lot of time to like document some suggestions and ideas. And when he initially mentioned about being embedded or providing office hours for students where he could just answer any questions, I felt bad. Like, I don't think students are really going to be active, and it's a very quiet class. So I posted an announcement asking students what they thought about having a discussion forum available and the opportunity to have office hours, and nobody even responded. And so that was just the first couple of months. And then as we worked through the class, then the idea again, I thought, let's take advantage of the idea. After also working through the Peralta equity rubric and the alignment to provide more details on Indigenous scholars and how we can incorporate that aspect into the course. So yeah, it worked really well after that. And do you want to share, Josh?
Yeah, sure. I thank you for the question. I think for me, my perspective, I also found like it was pretty quiet. Like I had a librarian discussion available in the course, but without a like specific context for students to like engage with the research or have a reason to talk with a librarian, it kind of it was inactive. So I think I really valued working with Professor A and being able to like incorporate library research in a specific discussion that's like grounded in the discipline and like with Indigenous scholars that students were like drawn to, both their research and their background, and also like the methods they were using and where they were exploring and stuff. And then I found just having it like within the context of, or within the time span of 2 weeks, when the students would be posting, was really helpful because I could focus solely on this course and this class for those 2 weeks, and like create a spreadsheet with the students' posts and like what they were talking about and who they're highlighting and stuff. So I found it really helpful that way. And also I feel like students got more out of it than just, there's a librarian in this course for some reason. I don't know why, but I can ask them maybe a question about citations or something. But this was nice opportunity to, I enjoyed working with Professor A on this. So yeah, I don't know if that helps answer it, but thank you.
Thank you, Josh. This is helpful, really. Generally, my students struggle to find resources in COA, the library database. And that is, I understand it's really challenging, of course, if you're not familiar with research and everything. And they're also international students, refugees, immigrants, and my experience with them is like they're hesitant to ask for help. In cultures, it's not okay to ask for help, right? It's kind of indication of weakness. So I always encourage them to, get help from you guys, librarians, because like I know you're helpful. Like this is how you find resources, right? And so thank you so much for sharing that. And Dr. Butler, I have a question, but I would like to just see the room if there is anyone else who would like to ask a question before I go.
Before you do, I just want to tag on to that concept about asking for help, because I did some work with the Colorado Community College system where we did workshops for faculty on creating welcoming and inclusive classes. But the fifth and final session, we pulled in student support staff from academic and non-academic offices to talk about how can we destigmatize the idea of asking for help. During the pandemic, the California Community College Student Senate conducted a survey and then did a panel discussion online, and they shared something that has stuck with me ever since. The students who are most in need of the help, the ones who are most likely to drop out or to give up on their academic goals, are the ones who are least likely to ask for help, to self-advocate. And so I think, some of the strategies that were brainstormed during that session with the staff, and some of them were disability specialists, some of them were the ones who work with military and veterans. So it was a wide variety of people, but they brought up, first, share your own stories as an instructor, as someone who's gotten to where you are and how you have asked for help, so you're paving the way. Next, embed it in some of your activities, the way Karen and Josh have worked together to make it not an optional thing that people can do if they feel the agency, or if they can override their cultural imperatives that say you shouldn't do this. But if you can make it part of the assignment, hey, I want you to check your research idea with one of the librarians. Here's the link, and basically just make a 15-minute appointment to chat about it with them. And then you've just made it something everybody does, so it's nothing special. And I guess there's probably plenty more things that I'm missing, but I just wanted to share that idea because I think that we can make the assumption that students know that we're here to help them, that they know that they should reach out for help when they need it. And it's often not the case.
That's so true, Kevin.
Wow. I mean, we're such in sync. I feel so motivated. Kevin, you just summarized it, especially Karen and Josh, of just making it a requirement. One of the things when I was teaching is that was the assignment. The librarian came, this is a smaller school, so it was appropriate for the time. We'll come in, give a presentation, and a part of that research paper were different checkpoints with the librarian to receive points. I also gave extra points for kind of follow-up appointments or checking in. Now you can, check things when you scan your ID. I think too, I'm looking forward when higher education as a whole, we move past realizing and knowing and researching and talking about students don't ask for help. We know that. So we need to provide them the help up front. Like we already know which students, which populations. What are we going to do about it to kind of help prevent that and kind of put in some barriers in place to slow down or even prevent them dropping out or stopping out? But I love just hearing from both of you speaking how you've incorporated that into your teaching. And so that's very much so progressive, because we know researching, right? The secrets are in the book. Everything in this new meta world, researching and accessing information at digital divide is real. And if you really don't know how to tap in to get that answer, you could be left behind. So I'm really, really enjoying hearing and engaging in this conversation.
And research shows that this digital divide is more common among language learners and, who are coming from developing countries, war zones, and etc. So yeah, it's super, super important. My question to you, Dr. Butler, since you're speaking, I'll ask you another question. Looking at your poster, I see that actually what I realized that your project is so similar to the project in California community colleges, which is called Guided Pathways, and helping students find their path without any, hesitancy or finding their way until graduation, even after graduation in connection with workforce. So one thing I saw in the lessons learned part, assign a program advocate. And this is what we have been trying to do as well. Like we call it not program advocate, but program coach. So since it's under lessons learned, this is something you're planning to implement, or you already started implementing?
Yes, I'm the advocate. I'm the point of contact between the students and the university. And so we don't have students calling all across the university getting frustrated because they don't know how the university works. They don't know that it's the person in the back that really has all the control, not the director, or it's the director and not the person at the front desk. They don't know who does what. They know which offices may be able to help them, but what does that really mean when they don't know the process? So I think with moving forward, whether they're coaches, whatever you call them, I think the key component is hiring individuals that actually want to help students. Hiring individuals that have a passion for leading students to degree completion, because you have to want to do this work. I think that's the number one factor. I think the difference between a community college guided pathways in this program, where I think they could merge, is that for so long, I feel like the push has been access and autonomy and give a student all their options. And what I've learned, particularly with these online students, and these are adult returning online students, is that's not what they want. They actually want a very structured, detailed plan of action with some flexibility. And so with this program, it's a guided path, it's a guided structure pathway. So for instance, they don't just pick any class. I actually register them. So they're in the classes that actually meet their degree requirement. You can only pick from particular majors that we know are fully online. I don't know if you're seeing that across campuses, but people are saying it's a fully online program when it's not. If you don't offer all the classes in a rotating cycle that helps students graduate, you don't have a fully online program. Also, we do max it at 9 units. The research says when you go part-time as an online student, they perform better than going full time. And so the students are maxed at 3 courses, whether they're undergrad or graduate. In summer, they can do 1 per session. And so again, we always tell them, you know, my goal is to help really navigate and steer you and help you help yourself, right? Because you don't know this. And then for those students that can, right? So we do have students, you work with them, they could take 4 or 5 classes. Let me opt you out and let me connect you with the right advisor that can put you on that pathway so that you can graduate in a year versus 3 years. And so I think that that's been the role of this concierge. That has been my role. And then I take the information, and we have a MGMCOP working group. And so I'm relaying that back to the departments by point of contacts. Okay, we're having some bottlenecks in financial aid. I'm getting too many emails. What's happening? Oh, we forgot to tag them. I'm talking directly to the advising centers on the courses that are needed. And I always tell them, my students are going to be okay, right? They have a person here advocating for them. But what about the other hundreds of students in the program? I'm going to advocate for them too. Because if I know it's a bottleneck for these 5, it's a bottleneck for 50 plus students. And helping by providing information that faculty and departments can take in consideration as they develop and kind of plan out the courses. So that really is the program advocate, the concierge, the coach role, is to work one-on-one with the students, have an idea, and then disseminate that to the department so we can really stop the students running around the metaverse looking for help.
You know what? I kind of like the advocate name better than coach now after listening to you. But it's so true. Just quick follow-up question. Do you think a faculty member would be a great fit for this role, or a counselor, or a staff member? So what do you think would be a good fit for this role?
I think someone, faculty advisor, admin, that it knows how the university works from the top to the bottom and the bottom to the top, that understands and knows the catalog, that is really tapped in with the administrative process, because really and truly the classroom is still owned by the faculty, right? And I haven't really seen or got involved in that aspect. What I do is go through because it's an order of operation, the first step. Okay, you talk with the instructor. I'm going to ping the chair because that's my colleague. I need you to massage this situation, tap in. And a lot of that is handled in-house. Maybe it's a misunderstanding, but to bring it back to really your question, is someone that really has a full understanding, and this concierge knows a little bit about everything. And when we don't know, we know who exactly to plug the student to, who exactly to get that information. And so I think that could be a faculty, maybe it was an administrator that switched to faculty, like I am in the process of, or a faculty that really is just tuned in with how the whole university works and not just the classroom. I think that is the key component with these advocates, right? So you can care for students and want to help, and it's really genuine. But if you don't have the mechanism, the knowledge, the skill set to do that, then we're back in this kind of reciprocal kind of relationship where go to financial aid. Okay, I could have found that on the internet. What do I need you for, right? No, go to financial aid and say this. Go to financial aid with these questions. Okay, go see this person. Wait a minute, let me call over to the director. Okay, I'll get back to you. Let me handle that for you. And so that way, this person can really and truly be an advocate and not just have a title.
That is a great point. When we refer students to other places, other, departments, we don't realize how many students we are losing on the way. They sometimes give up. They don't even go because they feel tired or they feel overwhelmed. And absolutely great points. Thank you so much for sharing. And I see that, oh my gosh, it's 1:46. We're going over a little bit, but I would like to still see if anyone has any final comments, questions before we end the session.
I actually have a question for Karen and Josh. I mean, Karen, was like music to my ears hearing you talk about your classes. And I really want to know, because that calling the students, you have to want to do that and transition that into faculty, librarian, like, where does that passion come from? That you've taken it outside the classroom. You've taken it outside of just pedagogy. Where does that come from?
So I think it comes from being a program coordinator for 25 years. You know, I was in the Career Center for 12 years, the Transfer Center, also in the Tutorial Student Success Center. So I think having, and I do in a welcome email, let students know that I care about, you know, their transfer. And I have another side besides just being a teacher that, you know, will advocate for them. So I have called counseling departments or emailed, just because during the pandemic, students were not even able to contact anybody in counseling. So I tried to, you know, advocate and reach out and help, you know, is there anything other than drop in? So I have no problem doing that. And that's just, I think, the caring for the students and wanting them to be successful. And that includes, you know, writing letters of recommendation, outreaching for scholarships. I just met with a student this morning about, she got into 4 different UCs and wanted to know the best department to, you know, transfer to. So I think when you do make, you know, I hope, you know, in your tone of voice and the comments that you make to students, that they feel comfortable asking these questions and not intimidated. So, yeah.
I can hear it. I can tell. I'm like, oh no, she's doing something different. That it's not the same kind of speech, the same language that you're using is expanded. And so I appreciate that. And I loved, again, that admin faculty is different. You know, it's totally different when you have a complete overall understanding of the university, so you can kind of integrate and impact more students to degree completion. Yeah.
And coming from the Career and Transfer Center was in counseling. So many stories with a 3-level building with financial aid on the bottom, with admissions and records, EOPS, CalWorks on the 2nd story. If you don't walk that student down to that department and introduce them to somebody, they will not make it. Even, you know, just walking outside and going downstairs. So it is so important. And I'm so happy to hear your advocacy is amazing. It's just going to ensure that students meet the right people and just, you know, for their success.
Karen, we could be here forever, because every little thing you say, I'm just like, yes, because again, that's that stigma, right? You need help. I'll just end with one story. I was getting my EDD at USC, and they have a writing center. They have a writing center. And I never forget, I'm in class and I turned to one of my colleagues, she actually worked at the university too. And I said, oh my gosh, it was, you know, the writing center advisor was so happy. She looked me dead in my eyes and said, you use that thing? And I just thought, being an EOP student, being an advisor, being in college, I won't be tricked. I know better, right? You need to ask for help and it's okay. But if I didn't know that, maybe I wouldn't be sitting here talking to you, or maybe I could have internalized that. But she sure did say that, you use that thing. And I was like, yes, all the way to degree completion. And I did graduate before her. It took her about another 1.5 years. I'm glad that she did pull it forward, but it was because using those resources, being the change I want to see, taking my own advice, that people need help. It's okay to ask for help. And when you do, you can persist and you can have success in that. So I know we're coming to the end.
I feel like there's a lot to talk. Can we extend, Kevin? Can we extend 30 more minutes? I'm just kidding.
I wish, but there's no reason why we can't stay in touch. And we are creating a global equity community. And so we hope that people will stay in touch. We do have another session starting in 9 minutes, and that one is that the networking session? Do you know?
Yes, networking session, and there's one more intention, A11Y design.
Right. Yeah. But my reason for bringing that up is because the networking session is for making connections with people where you've felt like, hey, these are my people, this is my tribe, and I want to be able to connect with them outside of the conference. Didem and I are two of the conference organizers, and we've been trying to think of ways that we don't make this just once a year, right? So how do we make it so that maybe once a quarter, we just have an online event that brings people together and they have a chance to get into breakout rooms with people like themselves who have the same problems, who have the same issues and challenges, and just talk through, hey, what are you doing to make this work? And that's what this little session has been like for me. I am walking away with so many more strategies. For my fall class, I'm going to get an embedded librarian, and I'm going to be talking to the coaches on my campus to make sure that I am aware of more. As a part-time faculty member now, I don't have the same connections that I did when I was a full-time staff member. And so just reconnecting with people so that I can make those handoffs more warmly. That's what I'm taking away from this. So thank you all.
Thank you
Yeah.
so much.
Yes. Oh, sorry. Just
Please
thank
go
you
ahead.
all. And it's just been an honor to just talk with you all. And without a doubt, your students are lucky to have you all as their instructors and advocates. So thank you for sharing.
Thank you so much. And I'm going to put the YouTube channel link for our website so that you can find a recording of this session and many other in our YouTube channel. So feel free to subscribe. And then this, I think, finalizes our session today. Thank you so much for joining again. And thank you, our presenters, Karen, Dr. Butler, and Josh. Thank you so much for your insights. And we would love to see you again, maybe next year or maybe before then. Have a wonderful rest of your days. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Thank
Bye.
you. Thank you so much.